On our anniversary, my wife revealed she was pregnant by my brother, shattering my world. As I stood at the front door, my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, a mix of pride and anxiety filled my chest. Today marked the beginning of my journey into the army, something I had trained for, dreamed about, and worked toward for years. I glanced back at my wife, Sarah, who stood in the living room, her smile strained but genuine. "I'll be back before you know it," I assured her, forcing a smile. "Just a few months of training, then I'll get leave." "I know," she replied, but there was an edge to her voice. A hint of something unspoken lingered in the air. As I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Basic training was grueling. I poured every ounce of energy into my tasks, trying to keep my mind focused. But there were nights when I couldn't help but think of Sarah, of our life together, the plans we had made, the dreams we shared. I promised myself that when I returned, I'd surprise her with something special. I wanted to remind her of the love we had built. Weeks turned into months. I found solace in the camaraderie of my fellow recruits, but I missed Sarah more than I could express. I longed for her voice, her laughter, the comfort of home. So, I wrote her letters, long, heartfelt letters filled with my hopes, my fears, and my love. The day finally came when I received a letter back from her. I tore it open with excitement, but as I read her words, that excitement turned to confusion and dread. She wrote about feeling lonely, about how hard it was to manage everything on her own. There was a weight in her words that made my heart race. "Please, don't worry about me," she wrote. "I'll be okay. Just focus on your training." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I tried to push the thoughts away, burying myself in my training, but they crept back in during the quiet moments. Then, one fateful night, I received a call. My heart raced as I answered, hoping it was Sarah. Instead, it was my best friend, Jake. The tone of his voice sent chills down my spine. "Dude, you need to sit down," he said, his voice heavy with concern. "I don't know how to say this, but Sarah, she's been seeing someone else." The world around me faded. My heart dropped into my stomach as I tried to process his words. "What do you mean? Who? How do you know?" I saw her with a guy from the neighborhood. I didn't want to believe it, but it's true. I'm so sorry, man. The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. How could she do this to me? I was out here fighting for our future, and she was with someone else? My mind raced with questions, emotions swirling into a storm of anger and heartbreak. "Are you sure?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "I wish I wasn't," Jake replied. "But I saw them together, and I thought you should know." As the call ended, I felt utterly alone. The excitement of serving my country faded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of loss. I had sacrificed so much, and now, in my absence, Sarah had chosen to betray me. What would I do now? I knew I had to confront her, but the thought filled me with dread. Would she deny it? Would she even care? The trust between us had already begun to crumble, and I was left grappling with a reality I never thought I'd face. After the shocking news from Jake, I felt like I was walking through a fog. Every training exercise felt meaningless. All I could think about was Sarah and the betrayal that loomed over our relationship. I had to confront her, but fear and doubt gnawed at me. What if she denied it? What if she admitted it? As the days passed, I made plans to return home on my scheduled leave. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions. I rehearsed the conversation over and over, but no words felt right. How could I approach the woman I had loved so deeply and still believed in, knowing what she had done? The moment I stepped off the bus and saw our hometown again, a wave of nostalgia hit me. Memories flooded my mind, our walks in the park, dinners at our favorite restaurant, laughing on the couch. But now, those memories felt tainted, marred by the reality I had to face. When I finally arrived at our house, my heart raced. The door creaked as I stepped inside, the familiar scent of home wrapping around me. But instead of warmth, I felt coldness settle in my chest. Sarah was in the living room, her back to me, and I watched her for a moment, taking in the sight of her before speaking. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady but laced with the tension that crackled in the air. She turned, her face lighting up momentarily before faltering. "Jason, you're home." But there was something in her eyes, a flicker of guilt, perhaps, that made my heart sink. "We need to talk," I said, closing the door behind me. Her smile faded as she sat down on the couch. "Okay, what's wrong?" I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "Jake told me he saw you with someone. You're seeing someone else, aren't you?" For a moment, silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. Sarah's expression shifted, and I could see the struggle in her eyes as she tried to formulate a response. "Jason, Just tell me the truth," I interrupted, my voice rising. "I deserve to know what's going on." "I never wanted you to find out this way," she said, tears welling up. "I thought we could make it work while you were gone, but it's been hard." "Hard?" I echoed, disbelief flooding my veins. So you thought cheating was the answer? She glanced down, unable to meet my gaze. I was lonely, Jason. I didn't know how to cope. I thought I could wait for you, but it was just too much. I felt anger boil within me. And so you turned to someone else? How could you betray me like this? I'm out there fighting for our future, and you're... I'm sorry, she cried, her voice breaking. I made a mistake. It was a moment of weakness. I love you, but I felt abandoned. The weight of her words hit me like a wave. You think this is about you feeling abandoned? I sacrificed everything to serve my country. You were supposed to be my partner, my support. I know, she yelled back, desperation in her eyes. But it's not just black and white. I was struggling, and I messed up. We sat in silence, the air thick with tension. The truth was out, and there was no way to take it back. My heart ached, torn between the love I still felt for her and the betrayal that hung like a dark cloud over us. Where do we go from here? I finally asked, my voice low. I don't know, she admitted, tears streaming down her cheeks. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought we could work through this, but now, I don't know if I can fix what's broken. Her words hung in the air, and I realized that the foundation of our relationship had crumbled. I had hoped for a moment of reconciliation, a path to healing, but now I was left with nothing but uncertainty. I need time to think, I said, my heart heavy. I can't just pretend everything is okay. As I turned to leave the room, I felt a deep sense of loss. I wanted to scream, to cry, to let the pain out, but I felt numb. The life I had known, the love I had cherished, was slipping away, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The days following my confrontation with Sarah felt like a blur. I moved through the motions, but my heart was heavy, and my mind was a battleground of conflicting emotions. I tried to throw myself into the routine of army life, but every drill, every meeting felt hollow without the thought of Sarah's warm smile to keep me grounded. I spent late nights talking to Jake, who remained my confidant through this tumultuous time. He listened patiently as I ranted about Sarah's betrayal, my frustration spilling out like a broken dam. I just can't believe she would do this, I told him one night over the phone. I sacrificed so much, and she couldn't even wait for me? Dude, I get it, Jake replied. But you have to focus on yourself right now. You can't control what she did, but you can control how you respond. His words were a lifeline, reminding me that I had a choice. I decided to put my energy into my training, using it as an outlet for the pain. I pushed myself harder, determined to channel my heartbreak into something productive. However, no matter how many push-ups I did or miles I ran, I couldn't escape the reality of my situation. I found myself daydreaming about Sarah, about our past, the plans we made, and the life we built together. It felt like I was living in two worlds, one where I was a soldier, focused and strong, and the other where my heart lay shattered, longing for what had been. One evening, as I lay on my bunk staring at the ceiling, my phone buzzed beside me. It was a text from Sarah, a simple message that sent my heart racing. I miss you. Can we talk? I stared at the screen, conflicted. Part of me yearned to hear her voice, to understand what she was feeling, while another part wanted to slam the door shut and never look back. The pain was still fresh, but I couldn't deny that I still loved her. After a long moment, I typed back, okay. Let's talk. We agreed to meet at a nearby diner on my next day off. As I walked into the diner, the familiar scent of coffee and fried food enveloped me, but my stomach churned with anxiety. I spotted Sarah sitting at a booth, her expression a mix of hope and fear. Hey, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Hey, she replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our history pressing down on us. Finally, she spoke. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I nodded, struggling to find the right words. I'm not sure what you want to talk about, but I need you to be honest with me. She took a deep breath, her eyes welling with tears. I know I messed up. I've spent so many nights regretting my choices. I just felt so alone while you were gone, and I made a terrible mistake. Do you love him? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. No. It was never like that, she insisted. It was a stupid fling, something to fill the void. I realize now how wrong I was. I love you, Jason. You're my husband, my best friend. The sincerity in her voice tugged at my heart, but doubt still lingered. You hurt me, Sarah. You betrayed the trust we built over years. I don't know how we can come back from that. I know, she said, her voice trembling. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. I want to make things right. I don't want to lose you. Making things right won't be easy, I warned her. Trust takes time to rebuild. I'm ready to fight for us, she replied, her determination shining through her tears. Please, just give me a chance. I stared into her eyes, searching for the truth behind her words. I could see her vulnerability, the raw honesty that lay beneath her confession. But could I trust her again? Could I allow myself to believe in her promises? Maybe we can start with honesty, I suggested cautiously. No more secrets. If we're going to move forward, we have to lay everything on the table. She nodded earnestly. I agree. No more hiding. Just, please don't give up on me. In that moment, I realized that I had a choice to make. I could walk away, carrying the weight of betrayal and anger, or I could choose to confront the pain and try to rebuild. It wouldn't be easy, and I was still scared, but part of me longed for the connection we once had. Okay, I said finally, my heart racing. Let's try. But know that it's going to take time. A small, hopeful smile crept across her face. Thank you. I promise I won't let you down again. As we talked late into the night, I felt a flicker of hope, a possibility of healing. We had a long way to go, but perhaps, just perhaps, we could find our way back to each other. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah and I attempted to rebuild our relationship. It was a delicate process, like trying to walk on broken glass. We spent hours talking, sharing our feelings, and confronting the pain that had festered between us. There were moments of laughter, but they were often punctuated by awkward silences and the weight of unspoken doubts. I wanted to believe Sarah's words, to trust that she was truly committed to making things right. But every time my phone buzzed with a notification, a wave of anxiety washed over me. Was it her? Was it him? I couldn't shake the feeling that the trust we had built was shattered beyond repair. One afternoon, I returned to the diner where we had met to discuss our future. Sarah was already there, waiting for me. She looked anxious, twisting her hands in her lap as I slid into the booth across from her. Hey, I said, forcing a smile. Hey, she replied, her eyes darting around the room. I wanted to talk about something important. My heart raced. What is it? I think it might be a good idea for you to meet him, she blurted out. Just to clear the air. I don't want you to feel like I'm hiding anything from you. The suggestion hit me like a punch. You want me to meet the guy you cheated on me with? Are you serious? Just hear me out, she pleaded. I think it could help us both. I need you to understand it was a mistake, something that meant nothing. If you meet him, you'll see it wasn't anything serious. It was a moment of weakness, and I want to be completely transparent with you. I took a deep breath, my anger bubbling beneath the surface. You don't get to dictate how I process this, Sarah. Meeting him isn't going to fix what you broke. I know it's a lot to ask, she said, her voice shaky. But I want to do everything I can to prove I'm serious about us. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away, but I want to show you that I'm committed to making this work. We sat in silence, the weight of her request heavy in the air. Part of me wanted to refuse outright, to walk away from this insane idea. But another part, the part that still loved her, considered the possibility. Maybe this was a chance to confront the truth head-on. I'll think about it, I finally said, trying to keep my tone neutral. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. I felt trapped in a cycle of doubt and anger, wrestling with the idea of meeting the man who had briefly held my wife's attention. My mind raced with scenarios, each one more painful than the last. What if I lost my composure? What if I ended up making things worse? As the weekend approached, I found myself pacing my apartment. I finally reached out to Jake for advice. Man, I don't know what to do. She wants me to meet him, and I'm torn. Honestly, it might not be a bad idea, Jake replied. It could give you a sense of closure. But only do it if you feel ready. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're not comfortable. After much deliberation, I decided to go through with it. I called Sarah and told her I'd meet her at the diner again, along with the other guy. She sounded relieved and grateful, but I could sense her anxiety too. When the day arrived, my stomach twisted in knots as I walked into the diner. I spotted Sarah at our usual booth, and next to her sat a man I didn't recognize. He looked to be in his late 20s, with shaggy hair and an easy smile. As I approached, I could feel the tension in the air. Hey, I said, forcing the word out. Jason, this is Mark, Sarah introduced. He was the one I was with. Mark extended his hand. Nice to meet you, man. I took his hand, a mixture of rage and confusion coursing through me. You too, I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. We all sat down, the atmosphere thick with unspoken words. Mark started to speak, but I cut him off. I want to be clear, I'm not here to fight. I just need to understand why this happened. Sarah and Mark exchanged glances, and I could see the tension building. It was a mistake, Jason, Mark said finally. I never meant to hurt you. Sarah was going through a tough time, and I was there. You don't get to justify it, I snapped, anger flaring. It's not your place to explain why you crossed a line that shouldn't have been crossed. Okay, let's just take a step back, Sarah interjected, her voice shaky. This was my choice. I didn't want to hurt you, Jason. It was my failure, not Mark's. As the conversation continued, I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and even a glimmer of understanding. Mark admitted that it had been a fleeting moment, something that never meant anything to him. But that didn't lessen the pain for me. In that moment, I realized that this wasn't just about Sarah's betrayal, it was about the choices we all made in the face of adversity. Sarah had turned to Mark when she felt alone, and while I couldn't condone her actions, I could understand the desperation that had driven her. As we left the diner, I felt a weight lift slightly, though the path to healing remained long and fraught with uncertainty. We had faced the truth together, and now, the real work of rebuilding trust lay ahead. The days after our meeting with Mark were a whirlwind of emotions. I felt a fragile sense of clarity settling in, but I knew that rebuilding trust wouldn't happen overnight. Sarah and I both had a long road ahead of us, and I wasn't sure where it would lead. We agreed to start fresh, no more secrets, no more hidden feelings. We began spending more time together, trying to reconnect in the simplest of ways. We took long walks, cooked meals, and shared stories about our childhoods. It felt good to reminisce, but every laugh was shadowed by the knowledge of what had happened. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, I glanced over at Sarah. She looked lost in thought, her expression distant. "Are you okay?" I asked, concerned. She turned to me, her eyes filled with vulnerability. "I just keep thinking about how close I came to losing you. I can't believe I let myself go there." "I need you to understand," I said, choosing my words carefully. "This won't just disappear because we're spending time together. I still feel the sting of betrayal." "I know," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm willing to do the work, Jason. I want to prove to you that I can be the partner you deserve." In the weeks that followed, we began attending couples therapy. It was a daunting step, but I felt hopeful that a neutral third party could help us navigate the complex emotions swirling between us. Each session was challenging, forcing us to confront painful truths, but I could see the glimmers of hope emerging amidst the chaos. One night, as we drove home from therapy, Sarah reached over and took my hand. "Thank you for doing this with me," she said softly. "I know it's not easy, but I believe we can come out stronger." I nodded, squeezing her hand. "I want that too. But we have to be patient. Trust is earned, not given." The therapy sessions continued, and slowly but surely, we began to peel back the layers of our pain. We shared our fears, our insecurities, and our dreams for the future. I learned that Sarah had felt overwhelmed and isolated during my deployment, something I hadn't fully grasped before. It didn't excuse her actions, but it gave me a deeper understanding of the struggles she faced. One day, during a particularly emotional session, Sarah broke down, her voice shaking. "I just want to show you how much you mean to me. I'm so sorry for the pain I caused. I never want to hurt you again." Seeing her vulnerable side stirred something within me. I realized that my anger was slowly being replaced by empathy. We were both flawed individuals trying to navigate the wreckage of our relationship, and acknowledging that was a significant step forward. As the months passed, we found ourselves rediscovering the love that had brought us together in the first place. We celebrated small victories, an unexpected laugh, a shared glance, and moments of tenderness. The connection we had felt at the beginning of our relationship began to resurface, and with it came the realization that we could still build a future together. On the day I returned to the base for training, I felt a sense of hope for the first time in a long while. I turned to Sarah, who was standing beside me, her eyes shining with pride. "No matter where I go, I'll carry you with me," I said, my heart swelling. "I'll be waiting for you," she replied, a smile breaking through her earlier worries. "And I'll keep working on myself while you're away." As I boarded the bus, I looked back at her, knowing that we had come through the storm together. It wouldn't be easy, but we had taken the first steps toward healing. We had faced the darkness and chosen to fight for each other. In the end, love is a choice to forgive, to understand, and to trust again. And as I set out on this new chapter, I felt ready to embrace whatever came next, together. Months passed, and with each day, I found myself settling into a new routine both at the base and in my relationship with Sarah. Our connection was gradually transforming into something more profound, built on the foundations of trust, communication, and mutual respect. During my training breaks, I called Sarah regularly, and each conversation felt like a step forward. She shared updates about her life, her growth, and the small victories she was achieving in her journey of self-improvement. I listened intently, proud of her determination and commitment to our relationship. As the holidays approached, I planned a surprise visit home. I wanted to celebrate not only the festive season but also the strength we had shown in navigating our challenges. I contacted Jake to help me set things up, wanting to create a special evening for Sarah that she would remember. When the day arrived, I could hardly contain my excitement. I pulled up to our house, decorated with twinkling lights and a warm glow from within. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding with anticipation as I stepped inside. Surprise! I shouted as I entered the living room, and Sarah turned, her eyes widening in disbelief. Jason, she cried, rushing toward me. Tears of joy filled her eyes as she wrapped her arms around me tightly. I can't believe you're here. Just for you, I said, holding her close, feeling the warmth of her embrace wash over me. As we settled in for a cozy evening with Jake and his girlfriend, I felt a sense of normalcy return. We laughed, shared stories, and even made fun of the holiday traditions we had both grown up with. But as the night wore on, I wanted to take a moment to express how much Sarah meant to me and how far we had come together. Hey, everyone, I said, standing up and raising my glass. I'd like to say a few words. The room quieted down, and all eyes were on me. I know this past year has been a roller coaster for all of us, but I want to take a moment to appreciate Sarah. She has shown incredible strength and courage in facing her mistakes, and I'm proud of the progress we've made together. Sarah's cheeks flushed with emotion, and she looked down at her glass, tears glistening in her eyes. Thank you, Jason, she whispered. I believe that love is about second chances, I continued. It's about learning, growing, and choosing to fight for one another. And I'm grateful every day that we're still together, working through our challenges side by side. After the toast, we shared a moment of silence, each of us reflecting on our journey. It felt like a milestone, a symbolic marker of our commitment to healing and rebuilding. As the new year approached, Sarah and I made resolutions, not just for ourselves, but for our relationship. We promised to prioritize open communication, to continue our therapy sessions, and to always choose honesty over fear. We knew that there would still be tough days ahead, but we felt more equipped to face them together. The night ended with laughter and celebration, and as I looked around the room, I felt a sense of hope wash over me. Our past had been painful, but it didn't have to define our future. We were not just surviving, we were thriving, learning to navigate the complexities of love and trust. As midnight struck and the fireworks lit up the sky, I took Sarah's hand, pulling her close. Happy New Year, I said, looking deep into her eyes. Happy New Year, she replied, her smile radiant. In that moment, surrounded by warmth, love, and a fresh start, I knew that we were ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Together, we would face life's challenges, stronger than before and more united than ever. And as the first light of the new year dawned, I realized that this was just the beginning of our story, a story of redemption, resilience, and the unyielding power of love.